Chris Partridge is fired by the University of Michigan. Does that seem like it adds some culpability? Reports are coming out showing that maybe not. We've got this mysterious Uncle T character. All bunch of stuff happened within the last 24 hours. I can tell you how this all kind of ties into what I've known. On this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Friday from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hope, publisher of Wolverines, wire through USA Today Sports Media Group, and we are on the ground here. And obviously everything has kind of gone crazy. So this went from a lot of confusion over the last 24-ish hours, and then I think things are a little bit more clear. So obviously the big bad thing that's happened for Michigan is Chris Partridge has been fired from his post. I do know that was being alluded to by Chris Ballas, who I will hopefully see here soon for dinner because I'm a little hangry. So kudos to him on kind of getting that scoop out. That happened while I was on my way to the airport. And so that was kind of surprising, again, because my sources indicated he had no knowledge of the scheme or operation by Connor Stalions. And that continued to bear out, right? Like the reports that came out show that, again, he didn't necessarily have knowledge of the operation, but he did impede it supposedly. What that means exactly, whether it's him not turning in a phone, whether that's him telling people to not cooperate, whether it's him discussing the investigation with others. There's a bunch of different things out there via various statements and other things that are conjecture. I'll leave that to just whoever else. It doesn't really matter to me in this moment. Personally, I'm sure it matters to you, but nonetheless, it doesn't really change things substantially outside of the fact that he did not know. Now, was he kind of changing things? Maybe, right? Like, I don't know. But then you link him to the mysterious Uncle T, which is a name I've never heard before today. But I had heard the name Tim Smith before today, and I had heard that name for the first time when all of this stuff started breaking. And just through various sources that I've spoken to, his name has been brought up multiple times by multiple people. Now, that said, Tim Smith went on the record with both The Athletic and Yahoo, and what he said is what I had heard from my side. Now, again, Tim Smith has been taken off the Champion Circle NIL board. He's being linked to Connor Stalions by the first Yahoo report by Dan Wetzel and Ross Dellinger, saying that he had at least partially bankrolled Connor Stalions' operation. I, again, vehemently disagree with that based off of what I have been told. And I told you a couple days ago that he got over a $200,000 profit from selling his California house, bought the house in Michigan, and then on top of that, Airbnb's things out. I've told you that already. I told you that earlier in the week. So Tim Smith went on the record with two different outlets, and in one of them, I believe it was the Yahoo one, he said that he had heard that Connor Stalions had sold his house and got $100,000 in profit. I'm hearing closer to $200,000, but that's just me. So if this is what Michigan found out that made them drop it, it still seems kind of odd, right? It seems really bizarre that Michigan decided to drop everything based off of this. Now, understand that if Chris Partridge was doing anything that impeded the NCAA investigation or told someone else to say something other than what the truth is or obfuscate or any of those things, that's a bigger deal than the investigation itself, right? That's kind of the whole Burgergate thing. Did Jim Harbaugh mislead investigators? So that would make sense why suddenly they would start playing ball. They were already playing ball with the NCAA investigation, but maybe that's why they decided to start playing ball with the Big Ten and all of that while that was presented. I've heard rumors of group text and things of that nature. My sources that I've spoken to, again, on the what happened, not the what will happen. Those are two different sides of things. They're saying to me that they have not heard anything of that variety. that is just a rumor or conjecture, that there's supposedly no group text between them. But suddenly we're seeing the kind of underpinning of things at Michigan, and in the second or third year of NIL, it's kind of funny in not a haha way, but that the NIL people at Michigan get ousted and blown up and all of these things, when non-NIL people, the proverbial bagman out there, has been able to go ahead and do whatever they want to do, run rampant. So where I stand with all of this is, Tim Smith goes on the record, says that I did not bankroll Connor. I had nothing to do with any of that stuff. Again, my sources indicate that is fact, that is true. Whether or not there is some other communication out there that makes it look like it is, and or someone else was under the impression of it, and they went to the NCAA and said it, or whatever it was that caused Michigan to backtrack. I believe that which I was told, which I've been telling you the same thing. My story has not changed at all, right? Since day one of all this, my story has not changed, and it doesn't change, right? That's why I'm so confused with some of this stuff. Now, again, coaches seem to be in the clear, even though Chris Partridge was fired. At least we've gotten all of the extraneous reports here that have indicated that it is something that it has nothing to do with Connor himself and his operation. I think that in the Athletic article, or no, I think it was Yahoo. I'm getting them both confused. I read them very quickly while I got here to my hotel room. That they said that, hey, this is he said this is a witch hunt, and honestly, and he's a scapegoat. I agree with that on Tim Smith's behalf, based off of what I know, and there was another part to that I kind of forgot there, but it is interesting that Michigan has decided that it's going to take one of its bigger boosters and just distance itself from all of this. It's unfortunate this is where this has gotten to, okay? So, I remember what I was going to say. Connor, according to Tim Smith, what he did, there's no evidence that a rule has actually been broken. I think that's an important thing to continue to remember, right? Again, it's the NCAA that decides what rules are or aren't broken, regardless of how clumsily that they were written, but that's unfortunately the case. So where do we go from here? Let's talk about that here in just a moment. Before we do, passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, so where does Michigan go from here? It's hard to digest that Chris Partridge, who came back after 1 year, didn't even finish out his whole year. Obviously, excellent recruiter. I don't know what kind of reverberations that might have after 1 year of being involved, but I mean, it's disappointing to lose who's your ace recruiter, right? Because now you can't bring him back. It's not like a prodigal son down the road type of thing. He's been fired for cause, as far as this is concerned, and he's probably going to have a hard time finding a job elsewhere for at least the immediate foreseeable, kind of given the circumstances, which my heart goes out to him and everything like that. Like, I will add, Chris Partridge was not one of my sources with all of this. But he's been along a forward-thinking guy that has been able to see, I don't mean this in like kind of a negative way, or like, oh, he was doing some stuff that maybe he shouldn't have. I don't mean it that way at all. But he's been one that has noted that over the years, things of like, hey, Don Brown, our signs are getting stolen. We need to change things up, and then they don't get changed. There's a reason why he left for Ole Miss when he did, instead of sticking around in Ann Arbor, but he came back when he could. So it is unfortunate to lose a guy of that caliber, someone who has, who certainly the linebackers seem to love. I'm not going to address the rumors of a certain player that maybe, said something. That is a rumor out there. I don't know for a fact. Not to make it worse by being cryptic about it. I'm just saying I don't know anything about that. I've heard it from one of my sources, but it doesn't really matter ultimately. What does matter now is that the team needs to find a way to kind of galvanize itself. And the good news for Michigan is it's got Rick Minter right there available to fill in, right? And if you don't know who Rick Minter is, he's a longtime former head coach. He's the father of Jesse Minter. He's a guy who can come in and kind of not miss a beat. He's been in the building already for a while. And it's disappointing, though, that Partridge will be gone. But looking at Rick Minter and what he's done, he was the was the head coach at Cincinnati from 1994 to 2003. He's been a defensive coordinator multiple places, linebackers coach different places. He's been a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame twice, 92 to 93. Guess who took that role over when he left? Not too long after he left, a couple years afterwards, but still. He was a defensive coordinator at South Carolina, at Marshall. He was an interim head coach at Marshall, defensive coordinator at Kentucky. He was a linebackers coach for 3 years with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a defensive coordinator at a couple other little schools here and there. He's been around for quite a bit. So this is, if you're going to have someone that can come in and do some things and kind of keep things rolling, as well as maybe elevate a little bit, Rick Minter is not a bad choice. So that's the good news for Michigan in all of this. As far as recruiting and the fact that you've got early signing day coming up in a month, that's not really ideal to lose Chris Partridge, and the repercussions of that are not great. To add to that, the repercussions of losing a major booster who claims no wrongdoing is also not great, because what that might do, right, is give other boosters a little bit pause, especially if they know Tim Smith and they feel like hey, he is being railroaded, right? Like, he shouldn't be out. He's been a good and faithful servant when it comes to all of this. So that's not necessarily a great thing either. I'm going to stay on record of that. I'm not a fan of Michigan reversing course, even if it feels like that this was a way to get the Big Ten off of your back, right? Because as we kind of discussed on Thursday night's episode, it was a situation where you have where it's a settlement, right? So Big Ten no longer involved in the investigation, deferring fully to the NCAA. That is done. And certainly there was a situation there where it could have been the Big Ten could have, Harbaugh serves out his suspension, or they get the TRO, and they decide to keep tacking things on and make life difficult because that had become a war. While that's all good that that's settled and that's done, I still don't like the fact that Michigan decided to cave for any reason. I do feel like if it was going to cave on anything, okay, yes, we have a guy who's potentially impeded some of the investigation. That's not going to stand. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that bad actor at the moment. Not to call Chris Partridge a bad actor. He can't speak for himself at the moment. But it is certainly a bad thing in that, Michigan didn't stay with the Harbaugh thing. Because, again, there's no knowledge that, A, a rule was officially broken, and B, that Jim Harbaugh had any knowledge of it. And whether it was, as kind of rumored, that Jim Harbaugh is the one who decided to fall on the sword with all of this, or it was someone else's idea and he decided to go along with it willfully or unwillfully, however it went down. I still just don't like the fact that Michigan rolled over here, because it has some ammunition and everything of that nature. Now, what is this also going to mean for the investigation into Ohio State? I feel like it's going to stall out for a bit. Okay? Like, I kind of alluded to that yesterday. I feel like it's going to stall out. Again, it doesn't change that is the case as far as what I have been led to believe. Things are a little bit further apart than I was led to believe before, and I think that all of this probably hurts that a little bit. So, think months potentially years, hopefully not that long, but it could be a little bit of some time here. And again, it doesn't change my belief on what it is, who was involved. Some of those names are circulating on the internet at the moment, but it is certainly probably going to hurt the cause a little bit with all of this, especially with a major booster being out. Okay? All right, we're going to continue on. We're going to keep this short just because otherwise it takes a long time to upload on Hotel Internet. I can't go with 30 minutes on this, so we're going to keep this nice and short. Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming game against Maryland, and I'll give you a final score prediction here in a moment. Before we do, let's say you made the trip down here. Maybe you're in Maryland, you're in somewhere in the Baltimore area, you're in Washington, D.C., or somewhere in the DMV. I usually stay in Arlington, Virginia, but I'm in Baltimore tonight. And you were like, I'm just going to come because I want to be part of the ambiance, but I need to find a way to get tickets to the game. The perfect way to do that is through Game Time. Now, Game Time is a place where you won't have to worry about buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to your next, to all the sports, music, and comedy, and all the theater events near you. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, my favorite part, views from your seat, their best price guarantee as well. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. So many times that I have found myself with obstructed views. I've paid out the nose, only to find that someone else ended up getting tickets for a little bit cheaper at the same time that I did. The great thing is they've got this 110% credit that they will offer you if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. They've got these zone deals as well, where Game Time picks the season. You get an average of 18% of the savings. Game Time has the deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. So if you are living in the area, you're just out here for whatever reason, game is about to start, and you're like, I want to get tickets, you can do so with Game Time. And then the seat views, I think, are just crucial. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, last time that we were in College Park, Michigan won was 59 to something. I don't remember exactly. I'm going to look it up. 59 to 22 or something like that. Couple pick sixes in that game. But 59 to 18. I knew the 59. I did not remember the 18 part. So Michigan was really firing on all cylinders then. This is a little bit different, right? This isn't a situation like the last 2 years where I felt like Michigan was ramping up to the game against Ohio State. This is one where I feel like Michigan's just been waiting for the game against Ohio State. Thus far, it is healthy. It is they've shown that they can win in different ways. The last two games have not been great from an explosive standpoint in terms of the score. It has been in terms of explosive runs. I'd like to see Michigan continue to run the ball in this game, as well as I'd like to see a better mix, obviously, than the Penn State game. Make sure JJ feels like he's not going weeks without passing the ball. I mean, he's doing so in practice, I'm sure. But go out there and execute that. And do some things that Josh Gaddis might know. Because remember, Josh Gaddis is the offensive coordinator at Maryland. He might know what's coming, and can kind of let them, the defensive staff know, and he can't stop it. Now, he's also going to be relatively familiar with the scheme defensively, but this is Jesse Minter, not Mike McDonald. So it'll be interesting to see if he has any tells. I would not be surprised if Maryland scored a little bit more than what we've seen some of the other teams do. But at the same time, I mean, if they can only put up 13 against Nebraska, that doesn't bode well. But this is a great test for Michigan in terms of getting to go up against a quarterback that can throw the ball. They've had that here in the last couple weeks. I know Drew Aller, not great. Hudson Card, pretty good, actually. Talia Tagovailoa is going to be more mobile and more capable than maybe some of the others we've seen. So it'll be interesting to see how that is handled, how they handle Talia. That they handled him fine in College Park 2 years ago. Last year, he was a little bit more of a handful. But certainly a lot of people will say trap game, considering it's between Penn State and Ohio State. This is Sherrone Moore's third game as the head coach. That's going to be something to try to, I guess not overcome, but just see how that works. I would like to see a little bit more kind of the same style that we've seen on the road a lot of these other games. That would give me the most confidence. If this was like your 45-7 against Nebraska, 52-10 against Minnesota, that type of game. Certainly coming out of Penn State 2 years ago, Michigan won by the skin of its teeth, and then they went to face a not great but dangerous Maryland team, 159-18. I don't know that it's going to be quite of that level, but I'd love to see something somewhere in between what we've seen kind of in the non-conference games and all of that and that, right? So somewhere in the 45-10, 45-13 type range, I think would be really good. If they can shut them down even more so, keep them to single digits, that would be even better. So what do I think is going to happen? Well, last week I picked Michigan to win 37-11. They were on track for that score for a little while. James Franklin and his 2-point conversions. I'm going to pick the same score, actually, for the Maryland game. I know it's a weird score, but that's what I'm going to pick. Michigan 37, Maryland 11, and then once the moment that game ends, probably before the moment that we all understand that Michigan's got the game in hand, assuming it will get to that point, we're all going to start thinking about Ohio State. It's going to be interesting. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. We will talk to you again very soon, sometime after the game. I get home on Saturday night, so Sunday should be fun for us to have a post game again. So we'll talk to you then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.